But what I know is that we shouldn't have gone this far if everything was well at home. We have the judiciary, we have the Special Fraud Unit, we have the FCC, we have National Assembly, we have different arms of government that ordinarily should process whosoever is contesting in the country, whosoever is being appointed as a minister. But unfortunately, everything is now rubber stamped. So, and when people cannot get justice at home, they seek validation abroad. And that is what my principal, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has done. He's been compelled, he was left with no choice. That, okay, if the people at home are not serious about the future of their children, are not serious about their country and our place in the Committee of Nations, then we have to go elsewhere and seek justice. And this is exactly what he has done. It will deepen our democracy. What we expect out of it is that hopefully there will be incontrovertible evidence that there have been a lot of infractions which have been overlooked and studiously ignored at home. And now we can then bring it back to the Supreme Court and hope that the Supreme Court justices will be manly enough, will be courageous enough, in case it favors Atiku. In case. I don't want to prejudge them. I'm not a judge. But that is the only reason why Atiku has decided to go to America, to go and dig out the roots of this issue. It may be a landmark moment for Nigeria. Nigeria deserves to wake up from its deep slumber. We've been sleeping a lot, and the world is laughing at us everywhere we go. People believe that we're the most corrupt nation on earth, whereas we're the country of the greatest human beings on earth. That's my belief. I've been all over the world on 5 continents, and everywhere I've been, I've seen Nigerians working very hard, doing great things. Even in the cabinet of the President of the United States, you find Nigerians everywhere, and they are doing great things. So how come back home? And it is because we're not serious, we don't love our country enough, we don't love our nation. We all talk about, oh, he's a Yoruba man, oh, he's a Fulani man, he's an Igbo man. Whereas we should be thinking big at this time. Nigeria did not create Nigeria to be a useless monster. We're so big, and there must be a reason why Nigeria made us big. Though we all disagree all the time and say we want to go our separate ways, I can tell you there is strength in our being big. We're amongst the biggest nations on earth. And so, why are we wasting that opportunity that God has given to us? Well, maybe you're not aware, I was actually born in the year 1960, May 16th to be precise. So you can call me a child of independence. I grew up in a Nigeria where in the First Republic, we had great men and women lead our country. These were fantastic scholars. They went to good schools. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Sir Tafawa Balewa, Sir Ahmadu Bello. You know, these were first-class politicians. But unfortunately, after we had the first military coup, then we had coups after coups, we went through a civil war that wasted so many lives of our own people. And here we are today. From those first-class brains at the beginning, Nigeria is now saddled with what Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth. A lot of our politicians today are in power just because of one thing: access to unlimited cash. So those days are gone when we had ideologues who had their ideology. You could know whether a man was a capitalist, whether he was a social democrat, whether he was a welfareist, he was a socialist. So these days, we are totally confused about the direction our politicians are going. So we grew up also in a country where education In fact, in those days, for anyone to go and study abroad, it's either you were on scholarship or you couldn't get a place back home and you just wanted to go and, hustle abroad. All the children of big men that I knew today schooled in Nigeria, and the quality of education was good. In fact, foreigners used to come to Nigeria to attend schools. Even in Ife, where I grew up, which we could call a rural setting, we had people who came from all over the world to study. But today, that is not the case. So, and the issue of corruption, people frowned at corruption at that time. Yes, of course, there could be a few corrupt cases here and there, but it was not as pandemic as what we have today. And that is why every right-thinking Nigerian should take what Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is doing very seriously. That look, yes, we've all made our mistakes in the past, but there must be a method to our madness. There must be a limit to our rascality. Right now, people are not afraid of anything. If you go to court now, you don't know what to expect. The same court that said A last year, if you go to the same court today with the same justices, suddenly things will change. So these are very germane issues that we need to attend to, and we're hoping that as we celebrate 63 years is a long period in the life of a nation. At 63, we should have matured, we should have made all our mistakes, and by now we should be able to correct those mistakes. Well, no matter what I say, some people will consider it subjective, but I'll try to be as objective as possible. The current government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was expected to be a very experienced government for a man who had led Lagos. In fact, he has virtually controlled Lagos in the last 24 years, endlessly, and is still in control in Lagos. And Lagos is supposed to be one of the biggest, if it was a country, to be one of the most important countries in Africa. When you look at the capacity, the financial capacity of Lagos, we were told they were ready and they will hit the ground rolling. But unfortunately, we can't see the ground and we can't see the runners. What we see is a total hulabaloo, a total confusion. We're in a state of confusion. A new government ought to give hope to the people from day one. But what we saw was a wishy-washy decision to remove the subsidy instantly without it being well thought out, without looking at the repercussions and how to help the situation. I think that's where the problem started from. On May 29th, a leader was sworn in, and the first news.
The connection there with.
What did you say, please?
Kindly go ahead, Chief Momodu.
Okay. So, and the first news was bad news. That news could have been looked at more critically, consider the repercussions of it, and then you can come out with it. We would have expected it, for example, if possible, to be phased out, because it's like your landlord coming to say you were paying 2,000 naira a month, and suddenly you have to pay 10,000 naira a month when your salary has not increased. And on top of it, whether you like it or not, you must pay in advance. So now they are talking about palliatives, but how many people can enjoy the palliatives? And how do we determine those who will enjoy the palliatives? I watched the speech yesterday by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and I was shocked when I saw we will add 25,000 naira to low income earners. How do you determine what data, in a country where we know that politicians are capable of any form of abracadabra? A serious government would have brought in a fresh team of technocrats and politicians not the same recycled people who collapsed the nation in the first instance. A serious government will not be thinking about its survival alone. What I see is a survivalist government. A government that wants to grab at anything and everything just to remain in power. We must consider our country. This country has suffered a lot in the past. And I expected that, hey, we should have sympathetic undertakers, if I can use that phrase. But what I see are unsympathetic politicians. We have them at the executive level. We have them at the legislative level. And we're hoping that the judiciary will be different. So, for me, it's unfortunate that I cannot see that ray of hope yet. No. Definitely. There is no right-thinking government that we run an over-bloated government at this time. Nigeria is in dire straits. And it's unfortunate that our politicians have no pity, no mercy on their country. This is a time where we need patriotic men and women to stand up for our country. I don't have to tell a government before they will realize that you cannot practice capitalism without capital. What I see are politicians who came to power and they don't care whether the masses are suffering and dying. They are just interested in the pecuniary gains of being in power. That's so unfortunate. If they came from the one and they say, oh, we believe we are privileged to be here, and this is our contribution. All the vehicles we used to buy, whatever we have at home, we can bring it. People will say, oh, it's not practical. I am telling you, as a businessman, I know it is very practical. And I like to give practical examples. There were times when the economy was very bad in Nigeria. If I was flying first class, I would downgrade myself to economy or at the very best premium. That's what our politicians need to do. But what I see in Abuja now, if you go to Abuja now, it's a jamboree going on. I can't see any sign of hard times, whereas every home in Nigeria is crying. Only the politicians are not crying.